Okay, so are you ready to dive into something we all experience and chat about pretty much every day?
Oh, let me guess. Are we talking about the weather again?
You got it. But we're going to go way beyond just, it's hot today. We're talking about how to really level up your English conversation skills when it comes to the weather.
Sounds interesting. Where are we getting all this weather wisdom from?
Well, a listener actually sent in this super cool podcast episode.
Oh, cool.
It's called, get this, Weather Talk. More than just rain and sun.
Catchy.
It is, right? And we're going to unpack it all the best tips and tricks from the episode so you can impress your friends with your amazing weather vocabulary.
I'm all for expanding my weather vocab. I'm ready when you are.
Perfect. So first things first, the podcast really emphasizes that even simple weather descriptions, right, the basic stuff, can actually reveal cultural differences and some pretty cool language facts.
You mean like how people describe rain can be totally different depending on where they're from?
Exactly. And you know what? I've always loved that English saying, raining cats and dogs, but I never really thought about where it came from or if other languages have similar
Well,
sayings.
that's a good point. Raining cats and dogs. It's such a weird expression when you actually think about it.
It is.
So where does it come from?
Well, apparently, it probably started way back when heavy rain would actually wash debris and even animals through the streets.
Wow. So it was literally raining cats and dogs.
Mhm.
That makes the saying so much more vivid.
Right, and get this, other cultures have their own unique expressions. Like in Wales, they say it's raining old women and sticks.
Raining old women and sticks. Okay, now that one is a bit more of a head scratcher.
Right, what's the story behind that one? But you see, this is what I love about language. There's always something new to discover.
I completely agree. Learning these idioms and where they come from can really give you a deeper understanding of, well, the culture behind the language.
Exactly. So we've definitely established that you can, spice up even basic weather vocabulary. But the podcast also talked a lot about adding more details to make your conversations, well, just more interesting.
So instead of just saying it's cold, you could say something like, the air is so crisp, it feels like my lungs are freezing with every breath.
Yeah, or something like that. Like you're painting a more vivid picture. And you can even connect the weather to shared cultural experiences.
Right, like this weather reminds me of that time we went sledding in the Alps, or this heat is making me crave some ice-cold horchata, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what else? You can even use weather descriptions to subtly hint at your own feelings, without directly saying it.
Oh, that's interesting. So if I'm feeling down, I might say, the sky is overcast today, just like my mood.
Exactly. You're not directly saying I'm sad, but you're kind of letting people know how you're feeling. It adds another layer to the conversation.
Clever. I like that.
And you know what else adds depth to a conversation?
Tell me.
Personal stories.
Oh, of course. Who doesn't love a good story?
Right. And the podcast really highlighted how sharing personal anecdotes about the weather can take a conversation beyond just small talk.
Like that story about Marco in Paris.
Oh, yeah. Marco and the downpour. He was standing under the Eiffel Tower, totally soaked, but somehow, exhilarated.
It's funny how weather can create such vivid memories.
It really is. And when you share those memories, it makes the conversation more relatable.
Yeah.
It invites the other person to share their own experiences, and that just creates a genuine connection.
Makes you feel less like you're just making small talk and more like you're actually connecting with someone.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like the weather becomes this shared story we can all connect with.
Totally.
And, as we're kind of going deeper into this whole world of weather talk, there are some really fun facts and maybe some less common weather words you can use to really spice things up.
Oh, I'm all about that. Hit me with some cool weather trivia.
Okay, so have you ever heard of sundogs?
Sundogs? I don't think so. What are those?
So they're these bright spots of light, and they appear on either side of the sun like phantom suns or something.
Whoa, that's wild.
Yeah, and they happen when sunlight refracts through ice crystals in the atmosphere.
So it's like a trick of the light.
Yeah, exactly.
Sundogs, I've never heard of that before.
And speaking of kind of magical weather stuff, there's also this thing called Virga.
Virga, another new one.
Yeah, so Virga is when rain actually evaporates before it hits the ground. So you see these streaks coming down from the clouds, but they never actually reach us.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that before, but I had no idea it had a name.
Yeah. It's like the sky is teasing us with rain.
It is.
And honestly, imagine how much more interesting your conversations can be when you can just casually drop in these kind of cool weather terms.
Right. Instead of just like, oh, it's raining, you can be like, whoa, check out that Virga.
Exactly. It's a guaranteed conversation starter.
Totally. Okay, so I'm adding sundogs and Virga to my weather vocabulary list for sure.
Oh, good.
But what about when the conversation turns to like weather complaints? Let's be real. People love to complain about the weather.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Seems like it's a favorite pastime for, well, pretty much everyone.
Right.
But instead of just agreeing and, joining in on the complaining, you can actually use those complaints to kind of make the conversation more interesting.
Oh, yeah, the podcast talked about that.
Yeah, like agreeing, but then adding your own experience or ask. It's like an open-ended question to get people talking.
Right.
So someone might say, "Oh, it's so humid. It feels like I'm swimming through soup out here."
Okay, yeah.
And then you could say something like, "Oh, tell me about it. My hair is like a total frizz bomb. How do you usually deal with this kind of weather?"
Perfect. You're acknowledging how they feel, but also like turning it into a real conversation.
Exactly.
I like that.
Or if someone's complaining about the cold, you could share a memory of your own, Maybe a cozy night by the fire or like a fun snowball fight you had.
Yeah, those personal touches really make a difference. It's not just about like the weather facts anymore. It's about connecting with someone.
Exactly. And don't forget about like cultural stuff.
Oh, right. Like how different cultures view the same weather.
Yeah. Like you could talk about how some cultures see extreme heat as a time to slow down and, take siestas.
And others just keep going like it's nothing.
Exactly. It shows how weather can affect our lives and even our cultures in really interesting ways.
That's such a good point. Yeah, it's like it's not just something happening out there, you know?
Yeah.
It's part of who we are, how we live.
Exactly. And that's really what we're hoping you get from all this.
To really see weather conversations like in a whole new way.
Yeah. To see them as chances to connect,
Yeah.
To learn about different cultures, even show off your language skills a bit.
I have to say, I'm definitely feeling more prepared to handle those weather chats now.
Good.
But like anything new, you got to practice, right?
Oh, absolutely. The more you use these ideas, this vocabulary in your everyday conversations, the easier it'll get.
Right. It'll just become natural.
It's like learning a new dance step.
Yeah.
At first it's all awkward and you're stepping on toes.
Totally.
But with practice, it just becomes, part of you.
So are you ready to put your weather wisdom to the test, listeners?
Oh, we've got a challenge coming, right?
We do. Remember that weather challenge from the podcast we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, get ready to think because we've got one for you too.
All right, here it is. This place has rain almost every day, mild temperatures, and it's famous for a certain type of tea.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm already thinking, hey, it's got to be somewhere. With a specific climate, maybe even like a strong cultural connection to tea.
Right.
Listeners, let us know if you figure it out.
And even if you don't solve it right away, it's really about, that thinking process.
Right. Just trying to put those clues together.
Exactly.
It's like a little brain workout.
A fun one, though.
Definitely. So, as we wrap things up here, what are some like key things you hope listeners take away from today?
Well, I really hope they realize that even something as everyday as the weather can be a starting point for really great conversations.
It's all about how you approach it.
Exactly.
And we've learned so much, like by adding those vivid descriptions, personal stories, even some cultural insights and some fun facts.
Yeah.
We can turn small talk into something, well, way more interesting.
And beyond just the words themselves, it's good to remember that weather, it connects us all. It's a shared experience no matter where you're from.
So true. So next time you're chatting about the weather, remember all the tools we've talked about. Don't just, say what the temperature is.
Yeah.
Paint a picture, share a memory, get people talking.
And most importantly, stay curious about the world around you.
Yes.
From the daily weather to the amazing stories that it inspires.
Until next time, keep those conversations flowing.